Podcast. It's Sam and myself here today. No Harrison. Last time we did the pod, it was Harrison and myself. No Sam. We are just switching up here. As you guys can tell, I'm the only reliable one here. I don't trust my friends. This is episode 136 of the Chasing Points podcast. We are back to talk some sports. Sam is going to be the Mr. Reliable with his stats today. He wrote, if you guys can see this rundown, he wrote a Bible, and I'm going to share some of his scriptures with you. So just get prepared for that. Sam, it is summertime. Last time we did a podcast, it feels like we were in Christmas. So welcome back. How are you doing?
Just shows that the NBA playoffs is too long, but I'll take it.
That's
I feel like round one's too, like 7-game series in round one. I get it, but yeah,
so
no, it's been a minute.
If you're saying the the NBA playoffs are too long, then you're saying hockey playoffs are too long.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Well,
they're mutually exclusive. They start and end at the same time. Yeah. But whatever. It's been a compelling postseason for the most part up until the finals. We'll see. There's still time here. But yeah, no, dude, I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. I'm good to hear you're doing well. I'm also doing well. Drinking a Kentucky Buck as we're doing this, so it's going to just get interesting as we continue to go forward through this podcast. So
I feel like I should know what that is, but I have no clue.
Well, I'll show you what it looks like first. So there's that.
Okay.
So it is 2 strawberries muddled.
Okay. Oh, you muddle now.
Yeah,
nice.
Not now. I've been muddling for years.
Sure.
Calm yourself, sir. 2 strawberries, 2 dashes of Angostura bitters. It is 1/4 simple syrup. 3/4 fresh lemon juice.
Ooh.
And then it's supposed to be 2 ounces of bourbon. I only did 1.5 ounces. Shake that with ice.
Responsible.
And then you do 1/2 ounce of ginger beer, or a can of ginger beer in a glass full of ice. And then you top it off with that, and then twirl it around and do the hokey pokey, and that's what it's all about. So that's what I got over here. It's my drink of the summer. If Sam ever came over to my house, he would actually get one, but Sam doesn't know how to hang out with me. So anyway, NBA basketball, we got the finals going on here. We will not be talking about hockey, even though we just said that the hockey's going on because the Rangers are not in it. That happened while we weren't here. It was very, very sad. I got to watch it with Branden, a friend that actually watches games with me. Kick rock, Sam. We have more to talk about college basketball.
What's up,
WNBA, Caitlin Clark just seems to be the talk of the town. Good, bad, and indifferent, whatever you want to call it. Very little NFL news. Sam has got his power rankings along with several other baseball hieroglyphs here. So we will be getting through all of that for sure. And then we have Do You Care as we go for that. So let's just jump right into the NBA Finals since it is the biggest show around town right now outside of the series that just happened in New York where they were selling, Dodgers gear inside of Yankee Stadium. Whole nother topic, whole nother time. Later on
they did it last year too with Ohtani. To be fair, I was at one of those games. They were selling Angel Ohtani jerseys in the pro shop. Yeah,
they're smart.
Good for them.
They're very, very.
Hey
smart.
Man, if it's gonna keep Juan Soto in pinstripes, that's fine. I think everyone that I sent that link to said the same thing. It's obviously a joke, but it's the world we live in. So let's go.
Well, Yankees need to do whatever. They just need to pitch a tent outside of his apartment or condo or whatever. Celtics are up 2-0 in this series. Harrison has told us to share with you all that he has made a grave mistake in going against the Celtics. And that Jaylen Brown is the best player on the Celtics. And there was a F Boston in there too. So they're 2-0 against the Mavs right now. Have you been watching every game so far?
Congrats to the city of Boston, F. Al Horford. I still hate them.
There you go.
Prepared statement from Harrison. I will tell you, I watched more of game 1 than game 2.
Okay.
just because of life. But yeah, I don't, you didn't really, I didn't get to talk about the finals. I wasn't on, and I know we taken a week or two off here, but uh, you know, just I really didn't know what to expect. I thought Boston was the better team. They're proving that still. Luka doesn't look healthy. Kyrie's not certainly playing the way we know he can play, and he has played. So that when your first two options like that are struggling a bit, it just kind of shows the depth that Boston has. Even with Tatum maybe not having a great game last night, and just I mean, this is a Drew Holiday podcast. It has been for 3 or 4 years now. We love the guy. Just kind of shows how important of a piece that is, and how deep this team is.
Well, let's touch on the Luka part. So you said Luka doesn't look healthy. He has not been healthy for quite some time. And that's definitely towards the second half of the season as they push towards the playoffs, and has essentially been injured throughout the whole entire playoffs. He was injured last series as well, but it started off him looking absolutely terrible in the beginning of the series to progressively getting better and then closing out the T-Wolves. To coming into this series, game one, I mean, Luka still does what Luka does. In his first two games, he's scored 25 points and plus, as you mentioned. He's been holding up the team offensively. Nobody else really has. And Kyrie, his running mate, who has shown out, looks like he's seen the boogeyman going into Boston at this point. And by the boogeyman is the person that you just mentioned, is Drew Holiday.
Not Kendrick.
No, not Kendrick.
Okay.
Not at all. But Boston Celtics are definitely saying to the Mavs at this point, they not like us. So with that being said, I know it's even with a healthy Luka, I still think that the Mavs would have a hard time playing this Celtics team. Now, they may catch a break depending on what happens with Porzingis, even though he said, I'm not missing game 3. This is the time that the guys nut up or shut up and basically get a ton of cortisone shots and whatever else they need to get prior to. They have a few days in between to rest, to get out there. It's the biggest, it's what you play basketball for, is to get to the pinnacle of basketball, which they are at it now. Luka has been carrying the team. He did so in this past game as well, too. Kyrie not putting up any points. Really. I mean, he is 16. What he's done, 13 for 37 in the series at this point in time. Not looking really good. I feel that may change when they go back to Dallas on a fan-friendly court, as we are very, very clear. I know you said you sparingly watched the game yesterday, but when he was lined up on the free throw line, or lined up playing for a rebound, and the fans definitely made sure Kyrie heard it, and he did a little come on, and then Al Horford shortly after was just like, bring in the noise type stuff. Okay, so glad you saw that. It even goes beyond Kyrie, Sam. They need a third scorer, and that was supposed to be P.J. Washington, and he has been not there. Getting what's his name? Why can't I think of his name? Came back with his last name is K. Why can't I think of it?
Maxi Kleber.
Thank you. He was supposed to be another guy that was supposed to be stepping up. Lively. There's a lot that's going on right now that's not. But this is also a testament to Boston's defense. Yes, they are great offensively, and they weren't even playing great offensively yesterday,
right?
And they still won. So I don't want to say it's over. I mean, we watched several series throughout the playoffs this year alone, going down 2-0, and then the series turning around and winning. But I will tell you right now, if the Mavericks came out like they came out in this game, this series is over. Absolutely over.
My next point was going to be, the catalyst was a lot of like P.J. Washington and some of the other pieces on the bench, and when they're not clicking and So I mean, Luka still had a triple double, and limping his way through. Didn't do much in the second half, but yeah, when it just kind of shows that you you need depth. You need your A guys to be A guys, but you also need that help from everyone here. And yeah, friendlier environment certainly. The Boston fans have no love lost for either Kyrie or Luka. It'd be interesting. I mean, Porzingis, he's gonna want to play. Obviously, he played in Dallas for a few years.
Yep.
There was, it was kind of an up and down situation for him. It doesn't seem like him and Luka have the best relationship or whatever. But again, you're gonna want to gear up for that game. Yeah, I agree with you. Question you keep hearing is the series over? We've watched enough basketball and sports in our lives to know that's a really stupid question, because even if the Celtics were playing even more dominant, you can't count any team out. I mean, could see what the T-Wolves did to the Nuggets and then turn around and what happened to them, kind of thing. But yeah, in order to get some games here, you need your best from Kyrie, and certainly he's owned up to it. He took his quotes after the game. He's taking responsibility for some performance here, but now it's time to play. You should have stole game two.
They could have stole game two.
Yeah, you should. Yeah, you could have. It would have put you in a nice situation going back home for a couple games. But
quietly, Jason Tatum almost had a triple double last night. He has not been flashy on the offensive side. On the defensive side, he's been absolutely phenomenal. But it's not on here, but I'll ask you this question. Is Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown the better player on the Celtics?
I like both of these players a lot. I don't think it matters.
It does.
I don't think. I mean,
it does
should
for
be
our podcast.
It should be Tatum. It seems like it's been Jaylen. And Tatum has these moments where, and I don't watch every Celtics playoff game, and I have a lot of Celtics fans in my orbit, so don't at me. But, it just kind of seems like you get more inconsistency from Tatum, but the ceiling is much higher, if that makes any sense. Certainly, he is one of the top players in this league. You mentioned having, still consistently being there on defense, but I'm not looking at the numbers in front of me, but it just kind of seems like, without knowing that Jaylen's had a better series. But I'm kind of tired of the discourse about the two of them, and I get it when you have two big pieces, cornerstone pieces like this, and they've been together for so long, and they've made a finals previously and they didn't win, and there's been so much drama, whether it's been Kyrie or just other things not working, and then the head coach Brad Stevens going up into the front office, and Missoula not quite being that guy. It leads to a lot of questions, but can they just maybe they seem fine with it? And I know Joe Missoula said that after the game too. It's just kind of I thought that what Kidd said was funny, kind of, rile everybody up with some of his comments saying Jaylen's better. I think if you were to poll fans and or players in the league, they'd probably say Tatum is by far the better player. But just from the eye test right now, it's not coming out to be that way.
Let me paint this picture for you. Jason Tatum is clearly the more marketable player at this point in time. He's all over the place. He's the face of the franchise. And during the regular season, Jason Tatum is the better player. He's the guy that is getting all the accolades during the regular season. But now, in each playoffs that we've seen, each of the three playoffs that we've seen, recent memory, because they were in the playoffs, they were in the finals 3 years ago, right? Now it's 3 years ago, 2 years ago? I think it's 3 years ago. But if we think again, in the playoffs, who's the person that always shows up? It's always Jaylen.
I guess,
So,
yeah, it's consistent. Not looking at numbers, just from what I can recall. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, Tatum's had more volatility in his game, definitely.
so last year, it was. I want to make sure I bring this up as I'm saying that Jaylen has been the one showing up. Last year was them talking about Jaylen Brown's handle and how his handle wasn't great and yada 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 and all this noise. But yet and still, in the finals when they were against the Warriors, he was the one that showed up, and he would have been the MVP of the finals if they would have won. And if they continue to play this way, he will be the finals MVP. He was just the Eastern Conference Finals MVP.
Yeah, good point. Yep.
He consistently rises, and what do we always say as sports fans, media outlets, so on and so forth. Yeah, we always talk about the guys that, like Lamar Jackson, to use a perfect comparison from an opposite sport. Lamar is great during the regular season. He's great. Gets into the playoffs, and then nothing happens. They lose. They falter. Jason Tatum, great during the regular season. Gets to the playoffs. It's not him carrying the team. It's Jaylen Brown. So I think, to your point, and I know what you're saying, Sam, and I agree with you, but they've kind of made this argument just based on their play. I hate that people are trying to pin them against each other. I hate that. I do hate that.
And to your point, that's my point. It doesn't matter, but
correct.
Yeah, there's potential has not been lived up to. You kind of feel like Tatum could be doing more.
Yes.
Being the face of the team, a Jordan athlete, all of this. It's always been you got to trade Jaylen. Got to trade Jaylen.
This is why I'm so torn about this, is because it was you got to trade Jaylen, and then they paid Jaylen X amount of money. He gets paid more than Jason at this point in time. I'm just going to say JB and JT because it's going to just get confusing as I continue to go.
Yeah.
So JB is getting paid more than JT at this point in time, and he's getting paid franchise money, like the face of the franchise money and whatnot. Jason Tatum, to be fair, there's been several players like a LeBron James that have absolutely been amazing and just never got their ring. And then when they finally got their ring, it clicked, right? So I still believe that Jason Tatum is a phenomenal player. But what I've seen with my eyes, and I'm not a prisoner of the moment because I've now seen it in several playoffs, is when it comes down to crunch time, when it comes down to being the guy to get the ball and I'm closing this out, or I need to put the team on my back in the playoffs, when it really matters to try to get the rings, it's Jaylen Brown. The JB is for sure.
Yeah.
Not saying, and that's not taken away from either of them. They're extremely great young talent. Both, if either one of them went to another team, they would definitely be the face of that team, depending on what team they went to. It sucks that there's pins against each other.
And I feel like Tatum's just been like it's almost. And again, he had a great season, and the team had a great season. Clearly, right? They only lost 20 games. Mm-hmm. They ran away with the East, and they played pretty well. And you can question who they face in the playoffs, but you got to face who you face.
Absolutely,
can't do anything about that. And but yeah, it just seems like Tatum could be doing more, and it's just plateaued in a way, where he's always been at that door, but has never gone through it. And maybe that is the championship thing that you just mentioned, but he's there's been so many opportunities. But do you think adding Porzingis, adding someone like Drew Holiday, and knowing that Jaylen is the 1B, if you will, and that's just it's okay?
Yeah,
clearly, obviously, Tatum will say, he made references to, how come we don't have Coach of the Year or MVP votes or any of that stuff. But they're poised to win a championship here finally, right? This collective group, and maybe it's just I don't want to say he's not an alpha, he's not like that kind of guy, but I don't know the team or him well enough to say that. But it seems like everything's fine in Boston, right?
The basketball fan in me. This reminds me of, which is going to be blasphemous for those because they are a rival, and just history in itself, but it reminds me of the Bulls. It reminds me of when Jordan was out there getting beat up by the league, and I'm not saying Jason Tatum is getting beat up by the Pistons or anything like that. I'm not saying there's one team that's beating him up or whatnot, but it's when it seemed like almost impossible. Jordan got a wingman. He got Scottie Pippen. They went out and got pieces around them. Tony Kukoc. That could be Porzingis, right? They got a defensive-minded player that grabs boards and does that. Drew Holiday, that could be Dennis Rodman, right? So it's like it's very equivalent to me when I look at it in that aspect, and I think about it in a historic way of what it kind of looks like for me. Like they've got the pieces. Like, okay, we couldn't do it there. We had to go out and get another piece, and like, oh, we want that guy. That guy's that piece. Like we can say now, like, oh, they got Porzingis. Porzingis was supposed to be the guy that was supposed to bring a ring to your Knicks. Right, yep. He was supposed to be the guy that was supposed to be Luka's wingman, right, and then get them to the promised land, right? He's bounced from team to team, so you didn't know what you were going to get out of Porzingis. He's always injured, which he currently is again right now. So you don't know what he's getting out of him. You do know what you're getting out of Drew. You know that you're going to get a solid defensive player that if he even gives you anything on the offensive end, you're getting a bonus, which he can give you buckets, right? And he's proven that again and again and again. He's improved on his three-point shot, so on and so forth, right? So
you can make a case he's MVP.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, honestly, he really could. So I really feel like this could, if they win, it's going to go two ways. And I'm not saying it's going to go either or. I'm saying it's going to go two ways. If the Celtics win a championship and Jason Tatum continues to play this way, it's going to be scrutinized all offseason.
They won in spite of Tatum. Mm-hmm. And I feel like the expectations for Tatum have always been to be this Jordan-esque, like, take over a game.
Yep.
And there aren't, I mean, there are a couple playoff games that come to mind where he, like, wasn't there one, was it the Heat or game 7 or 6, like an elimination game, he dropped like a billion points, like
had like 51, I think, or something like that.
Yeah, something like he's had some big moments, but I just feel like the expectation because of the pedigree and just we know he gives us glimpses into his personal life, and certainly his son like is everywhere, and that relationship is
he's been
often
stamped
in
as
the
the
spotlight.
Superstar of the team, so you're expecting more of him,
right? And that's what I meant with that, like the alpha thing. Like we haven't seen this like level up that we've seen and we've documented with Ant or SGA, or we've seen from Luka in the past, like where they've still become this, they're becoming this transcendent superstar. I think if you had a top 10 and you're starting a team, Tatum would be right there. But, it'll never be enough because, to your point, they will win in spite of Tatum. And if he does show up, they'll find some other kind of way to
they'll spin it
to go against it. Yeah.
Yep. And then the other way that it's going to go, if they win, is going to be, oh well, is Jaylen Brown? He deserved his contract. Right. Is Jaylen Brown the real face of it? Like that's going to be a conversation all off season. But on the flip side, if the Mavs lose, then there's going to be a conversation about Luka. Like Luka's finally got to the finals. Like, can he actually win a ring? Right, he's been deemed as one of the faces of the NBA, the future face of the NBA, so on and so forth. Even though he's only 25, I think he is at this point in time.
Yeah, it's pretty. So yeah, it's gotta be.
I mean, he's got time, and his issue, just like his former running mate Porzingis, he's always not healthy at the times that they need him to be healthy. So I don't know. There's just a lot of
Luka's playing though.
He is playing, but the thing is, there's a difference between playing and playing at your full potential, and which he can't right now, because if he was playing at his full potential, this series could and would be way different, because they would absolutely have to throw a double at Luka to try stopping him, and they're essentially doing it when Luka does his high post up, which turns into a fadeaway. They send two at him. They send Williams at him. They send Drew at him to basically try to get the ball out of his hand because his back is turned to the basket. So they have sent two to him. But if Luka starts making that more consistently, he starts coming down and pulling up from the logo like he can, and he's consistently catching fire, they're going to have to throw two at him. They're going to have to switch off, and then that's going to cause a problem for the Celtics. So we'll see what happens. Game 3 is Wednesday in Dallas. Game 4 is Friday in Dallas as well. And then, if necessary, Game 5 is on Monday, June 17th in Beantown, Boston. Speaking of the New England area, there's
No
a head
Father's
coach
Day game. That was weird.
What happened?
No Father's Day finals game. That's weird.
That is weird. I'm gonna say. Well, I'll save my thing for you later.
Yep.
Speaking of New England, you have Dan Hurley, who has been in the news mill, which I didn't think that we would be hearing about a college basketball coach around this time of the year. But I guess it's par for the course. But he was being offered a contract by the Los Angeles Lakers after there was conversation of J.J. Redick being potentially the head coach. Now I'm wondering if they go back to that. But Dan Hurley declined today at 1:45 p.m. Eastern Time. He turned down a 6-year, $70 million deal to join the Lakers, to go back to UConn and go for the three-peat. Do you like this or not? I believe I know your answer is going to be yes.
I mean, I'm a fan of UConn. I'm a fan of Dan Hurley. It's hot. I mean, coach. I was saying this to my buddy earlier today. Like, literally, coaching is in his DNA, in his blood. Absolutely. Right? That's well documented. He made the point earlier after the championship that he was turning down the Kentucky job, and he jokingly said he doesn't want to get a divorce. He just started making money. Mm-hmm. So, family, it's got to sound like that's important. It just, this whole thing seems weird because it seemed like JJ was in the driver's seat with this for a while.
Which I
and then all of a sudden it's like Dan Hurley's going to LA to interview. And if you're Dan Hurley and you just got a contract extension after winning, winning back-to-back titles, the majority of your high-profile players are going to the NBA. Why not take the meeting? Of course, the Lakers. And if I thought, my instinct from when I heard this news was, of course you take the meeting, and of course you leverage it against your school, and you could only win in this situation to make more money. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure he will, as a result, make more money.
Yep.
And it's hard for me to say, why would you want to coach the Lakers?
Why would you not?
Because why would you not? And yeah, LeBron, if he's going to opt out because of contract stuff, and that's a smart move. And if, he's got a year or two left, and he's still playing at a really high level. He's an all-time great. But there's a lot of questions with this team. Do you want to deal with that? That's one thing, but clearly he's comfortable in stores and New England, and it just was weird that it kind of came out of nowhere. It's like all of a sudden, 11th hour, it's like, here's Dan Hurley. So that's, I kind of thought this is how it would happen. But what are your thoughts on how it transpired or the end result here?
I applaud him because when you start coaching, I'm sure if that is, especially in his bloodline, I'm sure it's to get to the next level. Like his dad didn't need to, right? His dad is a basketball legend and didn't need to go to the NBA level to do that, right?
Right.
His brother, as you know, played, so on and so forth. Basketball runs in his bloodline. To turn that down, to stay with UConn, to keep them a relevant name with a mostly new roster and try to go for a three-peat, I think is absolutely phenomenal. Because it also, just as much as players are jumping ship and going somewhere else and taking the payday or whatnot, coaches are doing the same. So the fact that he had an opportunity on the table with one of the greatest franchises in sports history, period, offering him a 6-year, $70 million deal. So he's going to get paid more money than he's ever seen. He's going to be with one of the greatest franchises, which would give him opportunities in La La Land that he probably would have never even dreamed of as well, too. Having access to essentially, well, they're upside down right now, but but to basically get whoever you want because it's always enticing to go to LA and play there because of the weather in itself. I just love that he turned it down. I'm sure which weighed on his mind because yes, we know, as you mentioned, LeBron is opting out of his contract, but I'm pretty sure he's going to be right back with LA, just trying to see what they're going to do and say, hey, make moves so I can see what you guys are trying to do, or I can basically go wherever I need to go. The uncertainty of that, and also, as you know, and as we've talked about on and off air, is if you're coaching a team with LeBron, you're essentially the second head coach because he's really the first head coach. So yeah, I do care about that. I'm just happy to see that he's going to go back to UConn and see them go for history. That to me is more important than him. He knows the league is going to be there, even if they don't get the three-peat. He knows the league's going to be there. He knows he's still going to be highly sought after. Right? He has an opportunity to go next year, but he has a chance to
kind
create
of pick
history.
your spot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Yeah, you don't need to go to one of the, and not that the Lakers are a bottom franchise by any means, but the arrow's pointing down.
Yep.
Like, yeah, and that's just how the roster is constructed. I mean, even at 39 or whatever old LeBron is, he's still playing at a great level. AD stayed healthy all year. That's great, but what else is around them? And there's some questions there. So I mean, yeah, he'll certainly be able to, another appearance in another run through March Madness. Regardless, he's going to be able to pick where he wants to go. I think this helps too, recruiting wise. Yeah, absolutely. Know that your top tier program, your head coach, the guy, he's very charismatic. It seems like he probably does a great job recruiting. Like, you want to play for him. He's a funny dude. This
helps his recruiting.
Energetic guy. Yeah, no doubt. In a year where the transfer portal is active and NIL money's all over the place, and this definitely will help. I'm sure this year.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
Next year, for sure.
My head coach or my coach for my team, my college team, was looked after by the Lakers. The Lakers wanted him. Like, oh, I know he's good. Let me go play under him.
Back-to-back titles. Mm-hmm. You might have the number one pick or a top three pick in Klingon. Like, even though it's, the draft is what it is, it's still like these are important things to recruits, I'm sure. And, the league will be there. That's a great point.
Speaking of recruits, this young lady has rose the ranks of being a recruit to being a professional and being probably the most well-known female athlete at this point in time in the world. That would be Caitlin Clark. And this summer is the Summer Olympics. And she, apparently, reportedly, was left off of the roster at this point. Now, this has been talked about and speculated about, and I've heard every angle under the sun, essentially, at this point. So Sam and I are going to tackle this with the Do You Care? So, Sam, do you care about Caitlin, quote-unquote, being snubbed for the Olympic team?
I understand why this is a big deal in the media, especially the spotlight that she has and this rookie class, but predominantly Caitlin Clark has shined on the women's game and now in the WNBA. But of course, we saw the numbers over the last couple March Madness runs when she's involved there. I understand it. I think the reasoning, I don't know who gave this quote, and I don't have it in front of me, this whole quote of she's not going to play and we'd be concerned about the outrage that she's not going to play as much. It's not like they're just throwing a bunch of random athletes, basketball players onto this team. There's continuity here. Just looking at the list, obviously you have Diana Taurasi. You could question at 42, this is her sixth Olympics, but still she is, she was that athlete to that previous generation for the women's game, right? Her and Sue, and you got Stewie in there, of course, Asia Wilson, Sabrina's first. You got other Brittany Griner. I'm just looking at the list here. Kelsey Plum's first games here. I don't have a problem with it. I understand it. I'm sure someone will get hurt or decline, and it sounds like she's the number one backup option there. Aaliyah Boston too. I'm not sure who else, but like I understand it's certainly what everyone wants to talk about, and it seems like she is what everyone wants to talk about. I hope she makes it. I think she's great for the game. I like her game a lot. I think you can only benefit from a stage like this, but there is continuity on this team. And looking, I looked into like who picked the team, and do you know who's on this committee to pick the team?
No.
Dawn Staley,
Okay.
Simone Augustus, two-time Olympian, Old Dominion coach, Delisha Milton-Jones. I'm not familiar with her. Connecticut Sun president, former UConn legend, and University of Hartford coach, Jen Rosati, and Bethany Donovan, who's the head of league ops for the WNBA. So I know 3 of those names pretty well. The other 2 have, are important to the game here, former Olympians running the WNBA. It's not like, this isn't like the selection committee, right? Just kind of like doing things. I'm sure, obviously there's politics here. There's name value here. It's all important, but it doesn't jump off the page to like bother me too much. It's not like, there's not that many questions for me here, but what do you think on this?
So I do care about this because I love hearing I do care about this for the fact that people are talking about the WNBA in general.
Yeah, love it.
So that's one of the biggest parts that I'll be hammering home with this my reply. She obviously is polarizing. Everything that she does or anything that happens to her on or off the court moves the needle. We had Pat McAfee's misstep, which was a whole big situation. We've had Stephen A. Smith, him and Monica McNutt, that whole situation. You have what happened to her on the court, which was not a basketball play, which people were calling, I forgot the young lady, a thug or whatnot, and that she should be thrown out of the league. Clearly, you don't watch basketball because way worse has happened in basketball. We can just talk about the malice in the palace, period, right? So it's just anything that happens to her, it is incendiary. It's going to absolutely light the back pages on any newspaper or any sports website on fire. Anything that has her name on it at this point in time is pretty much liquid gold. I care because I do believe that the committee, especially naming those women's names that you named and knowing 3 of them and 2 of them extremely well for me, and knowing that they were a part of them and knowing one of them really, really loves Caitlin Clark's game, but understands that this team, they barely won last time they played. In their first game, they only won by 9 points. I think their second game, they only won by 11 points. So adding Caitlin Clark to the team would be just solely a business move. She would be taking a valuable roster spot that would bring revenue. She's essentially Christian Laettner.
Yeah.
All right? If you don't know what I'm talking about, I've been giving you basketball history throughout this whole podcast so far. Go back and see what I'm talking about when it comes to Christian Laettner. She's essentially Christian Laettner. Comes straight out of college into this Olympic team. And he didn't get really any burn. He got barely a little burn, right? That would be exactly what would happen for Caitlin. Because these young ladies that are playing have been in the league, have faced this European competition and overseas competition, which, as you and I both know just from watching it, is harder than what they're playing over here at times. Not saying that we have the greatest players and everybody comes and plays here, but some of those players go and play for their own countries and you're still playing against that type of caliber team. So I from a business aspect, I think it is dumb because she is the hottest thing since sliced bread. So you obviously want people to see and look at her. But then I also believe that on the other side of the coin, that if you do put her on this team because of the business part and she doesn't get any burn, then you're going to hear the roars of the people, oh, well, why is she not playing? Why is blah, 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 blah. The people that don't understand, the people that aren't a regular basketball fan, people that are now watching this because of her and don't understand why she wouldn't be playing, right? So I think all in all, I think it's the right move. I think they have the best players in the world on the roster, and they will add, and I want to see who all is going to be on it and round it out. And then, as you said, seems like she's going to be the number one reserve for the team coming in, or the backup for an injury and whatnot. So, I mean, kudos to her for that. I'm sure that's still going to piss people off because there's definitely well-deserving young ladies that have been there that are currently better than her. Because, yes, for those that don't know, she is good. She is not the best women's basketball player in the world. And I'm sure a lot of you that are just watching Caitlin Clark don't even know much about A'ja Wilson, who is arguably, in my mind at this point in time, the best women's basketball player, period, right now. But
no doubt.
You can do whatever you want to do with that. So, yeah,
I would say, too, didn't find out, like, the Olympics start the middle to the end of July. Mm-hmm. Like, the team's not going to get together and be able to play for a while. So the continuity of having 4 players on the Aces, you have Stewie and Sabrina on the Liberty, you have Brittany Griner and Diana Taurasi on the Mercury. Like, there's there's continuity there,
and they've also played against each other in All-Star games, so they know with and against each other. So they know each other.
So, and again, I think Jackie Young from the Aces is hurt, and I don't think she's played since the finals last year.
Wow.
So I think it's Jackie Young. So like, I think this will be a moot point at some point, but I see both ends of the argument. I care. She's great for women's basketball. Clearly, you have to, like, people are tuning in, but I think when they do tune in, you're going to see that you have, some great players on this team that have been playing really well for a long time, and hopefully this will help.
Yeah, I think that is another opportunity that's missed, because if she is playing, it's going to bring people to look for her, even though she won't get too much playing time over most of those young ladies that we've already mentioned. But it will put eyes on those young ladies that if you've never watched them before, you'd be like, oh shit, there's really people. Yes, there's people that are better than her out there. I know what media is telling you, and they have to keep putting on. It's the same situation with the Cowboys. Cowboys may not be the best team, but they're going to put them on there because guess what? It always gets a reaction from fans. It always gets a reaction, engagement. And is the most watched thing. So that's why the Cowboys are talked about every single year, regardless if they win, lose, draw, whatever the case may be, is because they know it's going to get you, myself, your sister, my friend, your cousin, your uncle, your grandma, so on and so forth, to talk about them. So again, this is what it is. This is what media is. Speaking of talking and football, some players got some contracts. And we'll just go through this very, very quick. Justin Jefferson, which we knew was going to happen regardless, set the wide receiver market with an amazing 4 years, $140 million, 110 guaranteed. So shout out to him. I hope J.J. McCarthy can get him the ball, because if not, that's going to be a very interesting 4 years. CMC signs a 2-year extension, which gives him an extra $38 million for being the best running back in the league at this point in time. I'm hoping Saquon can follow suit this year, being that those two have always essentially kind of been tied together and as best running backs there in their time. Speaking of his teammate, Devonta Smith, thank you, Howie, for getting this contract done before Justin Jefferson did it, because the Cowboys clearly are just dragging their feet, and they are going to be in a very, very weird cap situation now, because they're going to have to pay CD a lot, they're going to have to pay Micah a lot, and they're going to have to pay Dak. So they're not going to be able to pay all three. So somebody's going to have to go.
This is like deja vu, man.
It sounds like
With
every other year
Dexter
for them.
Lawrence and
Yeah,
and
yeah.
like what 4 years ago, like this whole thing, Zeke and Dak, yeah.
It sounds like
And
they're about
Jamar didn't sign either yet, right? Jamar Chase.
no,
Yeah,
not
so
yet. And that's
that'll
probably
be
gonna
fun.
he's probably gonna ask for 141 just
Yeah,
just to be
right,
right
right.
that just literally that. Devontae Smith got 3 years, 75 mil, 51 mil guaranteed. Jaylen Waddle 3 years, 84.75 mil. And then Mike Tomlin just got a 3-year extension. So shout out to Coach Tomlin, having a winning season every single year since he's been a head coach, which is absolutely phenomenal. So yeah, some people got paid. There's still some more people to get paid. There's others that did get paid. A lot of rookies signed their rookie deals and got some millions in themselves or whatnot. So there's one person that didn't get paid or hasn't showed up because he wants to get paid, and he was a former guy on my team that's on Sam's team now. And yeah, that sucks. I'm talking about Hassan Reddick. Yeah, sorry, Sam. Sorry.
I wasn't even aware of this until you told me last week. I guess because I've been paying attention to other things, but and it doesn't seem like it's as big of a news story that it probably should be. I mean,
should be. Yeah.
you trade away players, you trade draft capital for a player that is upset with his team. Now he's your problem and he's upset, and it's not like there's a discount involved now, right? Like,
Yeah.
so that's what happens when you're in win now mode. You get desperate, and there's leverage here on the players' camp, and rightfully so. And we'll see how this transpires. But
He had one
yeah,
year left and apparently didn't want to leave the Eagles, but was trying to force himself to get a contract. And how he was just like, yeah, no, we love you, want to keep you here if you're going to finish out this contract, and then we'll talk after that. But he didn't want that, and so now he went to your Jets, and apparently Mr. Salah said he has not seen him or heard from him since they signed him, which is very, very interesting to not
that's
hear
nice.
from a player
Yeah, that's what you
since
want.
they signed him. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
great start.
it's the moves the Eagles make are incredible. They're doing the right thing. They're selling their soul for right now, in the sense of I'd be really interested to see what this cap looks like in a few years, but they have the window to make it work, and that's what you're playing for.
Yep.
I mean, you get a championship or two out of this, Hayes. I don't think you're going to be too upset in 5 years when your cap is upside down. So
I pray not.
yeah, especially with where you've locked Jaylen in at, and you got both your receivers that are, in their prime, at comparable deals. So yeah, you're in a good spot now, and that's what's important. And we'll see. But yeah, continuing to just kind of master the margins, and this is unfortunately a casualty of that, right? You have a Hassan Reddick who's played like a defensive player of the year for a few seasons, and now he's not on your team.
Yeah.
But it's that whole, you saw this coming, and I do agree with the Belichick. You'd rather get rid of a guy a year ahead of time than a year too late, and
Absolutely.
this is an example of that.
Absolutely.
For sure.
And it's how he idolizes and he loves Bill Belichick. So don't think he just does that for no reason.
Yeah.
Like, he sees that and knows what's going on. You seem to know what's going on with baseball because you got a power ranking or something like that. So you want to share that with us?
Yeah, real quick. I know I have not been on the pod in a bit, so I won't compare this to where it was last time, because that was a few weeks ago and a lot has changed. But I broke down top 5 teams as of today, June 10th. So looking at it, number 5, surprised for people who may just be focused on their own team. The Cleveland Guardians are playing really well. They're ahead of the AL Central. I know there's not a lot going on in the Central. The Royals are playing really well. The Twins are there. The Tigers are not clicking on all cylinders like I thought they would. But the Guardians are playing really well, 42-22. So 20 games over 500 there, and just solid pitching. They lost Shane Bieber at the beginning of the year, and they're still getting this done. And some timely hitting and nice just offense coming from their team. So that's fun to see. Again, the AL Central is not very deep, so it's kind of just beating up on everybody. But
This all
it's
changed when they changed their outfield and
I'll say
created
at
new
number 4
airflow
with
in the
the
outfield.
Orioles, Baltimore. What's up?
Did you hear what I said?
I did not hear what you said.
I said
Cut out of it.
this is all since they changed what happened in outfield when they remove those things, allow more airflow in the outfield and allow more balls to go out of the park now. Do you know about that?
In Cleveland, I did not know about that.
Yeah.
I know the team has kind of took the strategy in the offseason to turn a lot of these average hitters and give them a little bit more pop, like Stephen Kwan and Josh Naylor and stuff like that. And they've definitely picked that up. But I didn't know that they changed the ballpark.
Yeah, there
structure.
was something blocking like the air from coming into the stadium in the outfield, and they removed that. And since then, J Ram has been launching the ball.
Oh, yeah,
apparently.
dude.
So
Yeah, I don't know why I didn't even mention Jose Ramirez. He had like 1 billion home runs in May, and he's continuing it into June, just showing that he's one of the better hitters and underrated hitters because he came up in Cleveland and he signed an extension to stay in Cleveland. And you know the average baseball fan knows who he is, of course, but he doesn't get the due he deserves. He's a phenomenal player for sure.
Agreed.
A team that did screw with their ballpark dimensions to the detriment of their offense, but to benefit their pitching staff, the Orioles, they're also 42-22. So they have a tough schedule coming up. They're playing a lot of the better teams in the league, but they're doing this. They just lost two pretty good pitchers in John Means and I don't remember who the other one was. Why am I blanking? Cole Irving? I don't remember, but they're down 2 pretty good pitchers, and I've been saying it for about a year now that they should have went after Shane Bieber at the trade deadline last year. They got Corbin Burns. I would not be surprised. They have a ton of talent in the minors. You have to look at the numbers of the AAA Norfolk Tides. That this team is like, phenomenal. I'm sure a lot of those guys will be dealt in the right move. So I have them at number 4. I have the Dodgers at 3. I went back and forth between the Dodgers and the Yankees here. I know the Dodgers just took 2 of 3 from the Yankees. No Juan Soto in that lineup. And I just think right now the Yankees, on paper, it's so hard. I could probably do this a billion times and come up with a different answer. I don't really think it matters. Both these teams are playing well. And the Dodgers are getting some pitching back. Bobby Miller hopefully will be back soon. Clayton Kershaw is on his way at some point. So I have them at 3 right now. But if you want to say the Dodgers are 2, I'm not. I don't care. I'll just give home field advantage in my rankings right now to the Yankees. But that's because this team's just pitched really well, losing one of the better pitchers in this league and last year's Cy Young winner, who's a rehab starter 2 away from joining the team with Garrett Cole. They're 46-21. So, still playing really well, and they're not getting, they're not getting the production they need from Rizzo, your boy Gleyber Torres, and DJ LeMahieu right now are just 3 to come to mind. Verdugo's part of that conversation too. So it'd be interesting to see like what happens when Jason Dominguez's rehab stint is done. I'm all for him playing every day.
He's been raking, so
yeah, and he's been crushing it, and he needs to be in the lineup every day. Mm-hmm. But I was kind of looking. I don't know if it was John Boy or one of the fantasy stats or someone on Instagram was like putting up what the collective team's WAR is, and like the whole thing is like, where's Jason gonna play? Well, it's not like everyone is crushing it, as I just mentioned. I mean, Rizzo's been dismal. Aside from his offensive woes, Gleyber's looked really bad in the field, and DJ's I know he hasn't played all year, but it hasn't been great. So, I'm just kind of projecting a little bit too with this, and the Phillies. I know they split in London here with the Mets, but I just think the way this team is pitching, their ballpark and the offense that they have, I really like this Phillies team. So they're 45-20. So I think technically the Yankees have the best record in baseball, but it's by one game, so whatever. But I was really high on the Braves all year, but when you lose a Cy Young candidate and last year's MVP, it gets weird pretty quick.
Yeah.
And we're seeing that now, and that lead that the Phillies have on the East will likely just grow here. So yeah, that's my power rankings. What do you think?
I I'm not saying this because I'm a Yankee fan, but I do put them at 2 because I would have loved to seen that series with Juan Soto and
Yeah.
how hot he has been through the like what him and Judge are doing together is absolutely crazy.
It's incredible, yeah.
I mean, I give a shout out to our hometown boy Volpe and what he's doing. I know his on base streak was just snapped, but he's just really really good in himself. Shout outs to Giancarlo, who, as you know, I talk hella shit about, but has been that slimming down and not being on muscular help, didn't it? Huh? But,
Yeah. A little more athletic for
yeah,
sure.
a little more. Glaber needs to work on his fielding still. That pop fly that he ruined, don't even get me started. And this is all without Garrett Cole.
Yeah.
This is all without Garrett Cole, which is absolutely amazing to myself to think about that. You have Jason Dominguez, who you and I are both huge fans of, just looming. Somebody, obviously we know baseball at some point in time somebody's going to hit a rough patch. Knock on wood. Hopefully not really. And if they do, I hope they get it out of the way early so they can, do what they got to do, right? But people always get into tough strides at some point in the season. And if that happens, Jason is going to slide right into that spot and do what he's got to do. Now, I realistically speaking, like it would have been before Verdugo became essentially this team's Nick Swisher. It would have been
Yeah.
it would have been him, right? It would have been Jason there. Just think about him and Soto on the corners and Judge in center. Like that's nuts, right? Eventually, you and I both agree Judge will be at first base because Rizzo is getting up there. He's not going to be able to continue that. He hasn't really been too great anyway offensively. We obviously know what he does with flashing the leather. He's disgusting. But outside of that, he also is another bullpen or I can't think of it. He's another guy that keeps the team together. He's
He's definitely a leader of that team
for sure. So just seeing that,
yeah.
The Dodgers and watching Ohtani, because being that we're East Coast, we don't really get to see too many Ohtani games, right? Outside of when they put him on TV and then you can watch it from there. And then for me, you probably watch it way more, but for me, I'm not really interested in watching just Ohtani and Mookie against the Royals, right? I'm not just gonna watch that game. It's just not something for me. So this was big to watch and see him play. Like this is a potential preview of the World Series to see that.
100%.
Seeing that there, and then the Phillies, yeah, they could have won last year, right? They have made all the right moves, and the energy that is behind them. It must be nice to be a city that has 3 teams that have the potential of going to the finals in 3 of their major sports: basketball, football, and baseball. Must be nice. So yeah.
Bryce, is there a player that has aligned himself with the city as well as Bryce Harper, and Philadelphia have? It's incredible. And the slide, he hit a home run or something the other day in London, and then he did the football slide.
Yes.
I was reading something, I don't know if it was The Athletic or something, and they were consider the $300 million contract for Bryce Harper a transfer fee. And I'm like,
Pretty
totally,
much.
man.
It's
but
just think about it. He's a guy that he could fit in on any team because he would be that guy on that team because people are going to look at him. He was so hyped up when he came in. Obviously, the hype is not what it was now because you have the Otanis of the world and Judges of the world that overshadow that. But even with that being said, to a casual baseball fan, you wouldn't think too much. You see Bryce, you're like, oh, he's good for that team, not really knowing this guy is a superstar and has
he
all
was
the
on the
tools
cover
to do
of
what he has
SI
to do.
when he was 16.
Exactly.
I remember showing my father home run derby highlights from high
Launching it.
school.
Yeah.
He was hitting the back wall of Tropicana Field. Like, he literally was hitting it out of the stadium, out of a dome. Like,
Monster.
so, like, and he's lived up to it. They had to move him to first base. So, because he had Tommy John and came back way too soon, but still, like, played. And because he was crashing into walls and stuff, like, you had to move him to first base, but still, like, he's been on a tear all year. Yeah, yes. But he's the game. It's, you know, the game's in a really good spot. There's a lot of young, great talent, and Ohtani had some sort of Tommy John surgery for the second time, is starting to pitch bullpens, and is having the best offensive career he's had so far, and he's playing every day. And he again just had elbow surgery, so like the guy is just beyond, like, there's no comparison to what he is doing. It's incredible. And yeah, Mookie, him, Freddie Freeman, Will Smith, top 4 in a lineup, going to be scary. They have some really good pitching. They, you know, you didn't
even say Teoscar Hernandez. just think about it.
You know, you would think in a series that had all of these future Hall of Famers, that Teoscar Hernandez would steal the show with some bombs. I know he stole a base or two. Look, was everywhere. Like, and a good talent in himself too. Complained a lot that he didn't see the ball well in Seattle, and signs a deal. Took less money to be with the Dodgers, and it's, you know, right where he left off when he was with the Blue Jays for sure.
Shout out to Ohtani for beating the case. Since we had a whole thing about it, shout out to him for that. Do you care? The Athletic released the results of its annual anonymous poll. I am immediately going to say I do not care because it's anonymous. I'm sick and tired. It's a poll of the players that are voting on who's the best player in baseball, who's the most overrated player in baseball. I
think you said the same thing about their football one too, so you are consistent.
I am.
Yeah.
I'm not going to change about that. Anonymous is BS. Like, if you're gonna say this about your peers, then keep that same energy, because you know that you're gonna be like smiling in the face. Yeah, I think you're overrated. Dap you up. Okay,
there's not too many Draymond Greens in the MLB. Maybe Tommy Pham leads the way there, but
not at all. So I do care about that. I don't care about it because I don't care for people that do things anonymously. Just own it. If you feel a certain way, then feel a certain way. But I mean, shout out to Ohtani for being considered to be the best player in baseball, and second was Ronald Acuna Jr. Which it's funny to me that Trout is rounding it out, which it's very, very interesting for that. The most overrated is Jazz Chisholm.
No complaints there.
Which is second is your boy Anthony Rendon.
Neither are my boys, but yes.
That is very, very interesting. I also the one name on here that there's two names on here that I kind of don't like about. Well, actually, a few. One I'm happy to see on here is Pete Alonso, because they've been hyping this dude up for an eternity, and this dude is like good every once in a while when he hits a home run, and then I don't hear anything about him. The only time I really hear about Pete Alonso is if he's having a tantrum on the field or he's in the home run derby, and that's it. So kick rocks. The Alex Bregman thing being overrated, I find that very interesting. Has he declined drastically?
He had 1 year where he hit like 40 home runs. Mm-hmm. Now, like, people give Yankee Stadium a lot of crap because of that short right field. Well, I mean, my favorite baseball player, aside from any Yankee growing up, was Jeff Bagwell. And when they moved into Enron Field, Minute Maid Park, they have that. They still do have that short left field porch. And between the ball being juiced at those years, like, Bregman had a couple good years, and he's turned it around the last couple weeks. But he's just kind of, for being the second overall pick in a draft and hitting in that lineup, he's just kind of like a 260 hitter. He's got a good glove. He played a lot of shortstop when Correa was hurt. He's going to hit you 20, 25 home runs and maybe 80 RBIs and runs. But I look at a lot of this from like a fantasy baseball point of view, and it's just kind of like I feel like you've seen the best of Alex Bregman already. So like it'll be very interesting. He's a free agent off season. It doesn't seem like Houston is running to sign him. So it'll be interesting to where he goes there. But yeah,
he
that
might
didn't
come
surprise me too.
to the evil empire.
There's been some rumors there. I mean, you think
You
Glaber's
know who he loves, Derek
yeah, he
Jeter.
wears number two. A whole
You know who he
generation of
loves.
shortstops
Yep.
wearing number two.
So I don't like that
I
Ellie's on here though. I don't like that Ellie's on here.
it's the volatility thing because he was playing out of his mind and he's still like on pace to steal over 100 bases, but like his average in May like cratered, like, and he was striking out way too much. But before that, it was everything. And again, we've been talking about this since he came up about a year ago. Like, this is the profile of this player. He has all of the skills. The strikeout rate is way too high, but he's got all the power and speed in the world. And
That sounds
also
like
very young.
somebody on the Yankees as number 99 that had a high strikeout rate and
that
was able to get
right,
that
and
down. And is,
again, it's
you know?
I don't know where it is now. I mean, having Soto in front of you definitely helps, but
sure.
He's Judge was over the 30% mark for a long time, and to me, like, that's kind of like the benchmark. If you're like 28, 29, 30%, like, not a lot of players can succeed at a high level striking out that much.
He
I
also
don't know
has
what
his
Judge
own personal strike zone too. So there's that
and
too.
and Ellie is in that same world, right?
Yeah,
They're
yep.
very similar body type. I mean, Judge has filled out; he's older, but Ellie is probably just as tall. Probably the fastest player in the league.
Yeah.
Him or Bobby Witt. Like, so yeah, there's room to grow. That team is young, in need of like some, they're not quite where they need to be. But he's the catalyst of it. I mean, if he's playing well, yeah, no doubt he is. He's something to see. So that doesn't surprise me there. Blake Snell doesn't surprise me. Like, most of this list didn't. So I thought a cool question was, just based on vibes, who would you want most on your team? And Mookie pretty much ran away with that.
Mookie's
Like, Mookie's
a vibe.
cool, dude.
Mookie's
Yeah.
a vibe. Bryce
And,
is up there. Judge is up
yeah.
there. Otani's up there. That says a lot about Otani, meaning like he barely speaks any English and he's up there. He's a vibe for people.
Yeah.
Did you
they love him.
see
They swear
his
by him.
celebration when he hit that awkward double yesterday?
No, I missed.
So he hit
back.
a double down the third baseline, where in no man's land, like nobody, like literally, like it was right inside before I went over the line or whatever, and then he ran to second, and then he did his celebration. He did like a Frankenstein thing and did like something to the dugout, and
funny.
had Perez just dying in the booth, just laughing, like he just stopped and chuckled, whatever. And I was just like, that's hilarious that he did that. So
I mean, the Angel, everyone in the Angels. That's why it was, this whole like gambling thing was so surprising to so many people. That, I mean, he's just not that if you gamble you are a degenerate and like you shouldn't be liked, but like this Otani, just people love him, and he. I'm sure he could speak a little bit more English than
for sure.
He leads on, and that's totally fine. He probably prefers it that way, but people love him. He's great, and definitely comfortable with that team. So yeah, he's great for baseball.
Shout out to him
for sure.
I can't believe Garrett Cole's on there as a vibe. I would never ever think Garrett Cole would be a vibe ever. Like, period. He just seems like too plain. But I've heard that he kind of reminds me of like what I've heard about him, like Eli Manning, that he just has that like stone face all the time, but then he's always talking and always playing jokes and stuff like that. And that's what I've heard about Cole. So
I mean, there's definitely things about Garrett Cole that even annoy Yankee fans, but like, and I hated him when he was with the Astros, the personality, but there was no doubt how great of a pitcher he is. But yeah, I mean, you could just see him. He's probably losing his mind on the bench because he can't pitch. But you could see, Luis Gil, raves about what he's done to help him. Clark Schmidt, and that he just wants to be out there. And he's the first guy out of the steps there to congratulate anyone or to even start screaming about
When he
something.
comes back, who's out of the rotation?
I'd say that's easy now because Clark Schmidt's going to be out
Hurt.
for a while.
Yeah.
But before that, there's a question of what are you going to do with Heal's innings because he did come back from Tommy John surgery. There's a point where you're going to have to like
Give him some
temper
rest.
things.
Yeah.
But yeah, these guys are these teams are smart and they have all these numbers to show like the stress on your elbow and stuff. And but yeah, no, and he looked pretty good playing for Somerset yesterday. So he said he's definitely at least one more start away, if not two. So we'll see him pretty soon.
I want to say this one before we get out of here because we're running a little long on time and we'll close out after this. But it says, which team would you sign with if contracts, state taxes, and rosters were not a factor? And I love to see that the Yankees are 6.9% and they're up there. And Braves are number 1.
Yeah, that was
Red Sox number 2 is very interesting.
The Red Sox was a surprising one for me. But yeah, no, I guess it just, the thing we take for granted, and I think the media definitely like kind of overlooks is like these guys in the league are all friends and they talk.
Absolutely.
And they talk, like you're my best friend and you're on like a rival team. That doesn't stop me from saying, hey man, Hal Steinbrenner is
Correct.
this, or
Correct.
hey, the Red Sox are doing some, or the Oakland A's owner is this, like these guys talk about players, about facilities, about training staffs. So, that it was interesting because, again, we have an eye test and what we get fed through various channels is kind of how we scope out our understanding, but we're not in the clubhouse.
Correct. Players talk.
Yeah, for sure.
Players
yeah,
talk.
I thought that was interesting. No surprise that the Athletics, White Sox, and Angels, Rockies, and even the Mets are at the bottom of that very same list. As far as this reputation, but
well, it's been great being back, Sam. I got to eat because I'm hungry, and I don't want to be hangry on a podcast. So
I have a Little League game to go to. Yeah, man. Episode 136 in the books for Hayes and Harrison, who's not here, but wants you to know that he screwed up. My name is Sam. Thanks so much for listening. We'll be back next week, right? And until then, follow us on Instagram. Peace.
Before we get out of here, happy Father's Day to you, Sam, to
Thank
your
you, sir.
father, to my father, to Harrison, to all the fathers out there. Want to give you your flowers. You deserve it. You make a household whole for sure. And I know I'm fortunate enough to have had my father throughout my whole life and be there for me and support everything. So I know some people are not fortunate to do that or have had that and have become fathers on their own and given their child what they didn't have. So I want to give you all the shout out for that for sure. Send love your way. And yeah, peace.